Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Izzatul BINTI Rani and I am from TESL 1 PISMP 2024-2028. And today I will be presenting my task 3 for EDUP3143, which is Sociology of Education. My presentation is titled Malaysia Educational Transformation since 2018, Implications for Social Mobility and Suggestions for Improvement. In the past 8 years, Malaysian education did not only change what students learn, but it also changed how students are assessed, how students learn, and how school operate. And all these changes are strongly connected to one important concept in sociology of education, which is social mobility. Before we start, what is educational transformation? Educational transformation refers to a fundamental and systemic change in the way education is designed, delivered, and experienced. In the simple way, educational transformation, it goes beyond simple improvement for the integration of technology, and instead, it involves a comprehensive rethinking of pedagogical approaches, curriculum content, and the overall purpose of education in response to the demands of a rapidly evolving world. Have you heard about social mobility? So what is social mobility? Social mobility is the process through which individuals or group move between different socio-economic positions within a society, and it influenced by factors such as first, education, or income, or occupation. So in the context of education, social mobility reflects how far an education system can provide equal opportunities for all students to be succeed regardless of their background. According to the Hikmat 2024, social mobility actually can be categorized in two ways, two types, which is vertical versus horizontal, and the second one is intergenerational versus intragenerational mobility. So the first one, I will explain about vertical versus horizontal mobility. What is vertical mobility? Is imagine that the society is visualized as the pyramid. So vertical mobility is the movement upward or downward in the social hierarchy. For example, an individual moving from a working class background to a professional career. So that is the shifting of the social hierarchy there. But the horizontal mobility, we must imagine that in the straight line, that happen in the straight line. The society is arranged in a line which that movement within the same social level without significant status change. For example, changing jobs within similar income or educational levels. That is horizontal mobility. Next, the second type is the intergenerational versus intragenerational. What is intergenerational mobility? It is commonly used in social mobility research to compare or to make comparison between parents and children's social status. For example, education and occupation. So the other one is the intragenerational mobility, which that movement within an individual's own lifetime. So for example, career progression or job changes over time. We must know about social mobility, especially as a teacher. Actually, education acts like the main tool that allows movement in society to happen. I will give you an overview of 3 major transformations that have happened in the past 8 years of Malaysian educational history. But before that, there have actually been many transformations that happened in Malaysia, but today I will only focus on 3, which is the first transformation is the exam ovulation, which is UPSR and PT3, the shift to classroom-based assessment, or we also known as pentaksiran bilik darjah PBD. The second one is the transformation 2, digital education and technology integration, but I mostly focus on the 5. And the last one is the transformation 3, which is the transformasi sekolah 2025 or school transformation program 2025, or the short form is the TS25. Do you remember in 2021 there is the really huge announcement abolish the very big exam for the primary schoolers. So in April 2021, UPSR was officially abolished. Instead, Malaysia strengthened pentaksiran bilik darjah, or we call it as PBD, as a continuous classroom-based assessment using performance levels from tahap 1, from level 1 to 6, or we call it as TP1 to TP6. So, there is a key facts on the abolition of UPSR, which is it is announced in 27 April 2021 by the Minister of Education, Razi Jidin, and the status is fully abolished with no replacement others and examination. So the rationale is that the decision followed engagement with various stakeholders and aims to prioritize holistic learning over an examination-oriented system, which is that very long implementation of the whole history of education of Malaysia, and as directed by the Ministry of Education Malaysia at that time. Since the exam abolition of the UPSR and PT3 is fully abolished, so the Ministry of Education decided to shift to the classroom-based assessment, or we call it as pentaksiran bilik darjah, PBD. So what is the PBD? PBD is a component of school-based assessment ataupun pentaksiran berdasarkan sekolah that is introduced by the Ministry of Education Malaysia. It is a continuous formative assessment that conducted by the teachers during teaching and learning. The date of enforcement is it is implemented in stages under school-based assessment from 2011 until now. It is strengthened and emphasized nationwide from 2021 following the abolition of the UPSR. From 2021 onwards, PBD became a primary method to monitor Year 1 until Year 6 pupils' progress. So, how the PBD shows the result of the students' performance? So, PBD is actually carried out through the various classroom methods such as teacher observation, projects and group work, presentation and performance, or it can be written works or quizzes that been assessed by the teacher in the class at the real time. So the assessment is recorded using the performance level which I have mentioned earlier, tahap penguasaan 1 till 6, or we call it as TP1 to TP6, to assess the pupil's mastery and progress over time. This transformation, which is the shift to the classroom-based assessment, PBD, is actually impact the social mobility. So here I present to you the 4 implications for social mobility. As for the transformation 1, firstly is the broader recognition of ability, reduces exam bias, and secondly is encourage meaningful learning instead of rote learning. Third, fairer transition to secondary education, and lastly is lower psychological pressure at early age. Firstly, how the shift to classroom-based assessment, or we call as PBD, is actually impact the broader recognition of ability among the young learners or primary schoolers, which is, we know that UPSR is actually rewarded the pupils' memorization and exam technique, but not like UPSR, PBD is actually recognises other skill than memorization or excel in exam, which is PBD recognise communication, collaboration, creativity, effort and student progress. So that we can say that students who are not exam smart can now demonstrate their strength in other domains other than the pen paper test. So the social mobility effect is we can see more diverse learners are identified as capable, increasing their chances to progress confidently, not only just in the exam or in the UPSR, in the big exam, but they can actually be confident about their other skills. So that they can get into the secondary education without being labelled weak at the age of the 12, at the age 12, which is the year 6. Second is the encourage meaningful learning instead of rote learning. So instead, when we doing exam for the big exam for the UPSR, we actually really rely on our memory. Student really rely on their memory to answer the question in the exam. But PBD offers them recognize their other effort, which that teachers can focus on understanding skills and students' participation. Students learn how to think and not what to memorize. The effect is the development of transferable skills needed for future education and employment is really high. So they are actually gain many transferable skills other than just excel in exam, but they can actually good in communication, can good in critical thinking and creative thinking. Next, fairer transition to secondary education. Without UPSR scores, streaming and placement rely less on a single matrix. So the holistic profiles like PBD, PAJSK or psychometric or these three is actually the main domain to assess pupils, primary schoolers nowadays, instead of heavily rely on the UPSR examination grade itself. But in PBD, we focus on these three: PBD, PAJSK, psychometric, to provide a fuller pictures of the students' performance. So the effect is students are not locked into academic pathway based on one exam performance. Lastly, for the implication for Transformation 1 PBD, lower psychological pressure at early age. High stakes exam at year 6, which is UPSR, created stress and early academic labelling. But in the presence of PBD, it is reduced the one exam decides your future mindset. So the effect is students maintain motivation and self-esteem, which affects their long-term educational persistence. They will really be motivated to learn more, and it actually promotes them to love of the knowledge and really good for the lifelong learning. However, there is some critical issues that may limit the impact of the PBD that we have discussed just now, which includes the increasing of the teachers' workload. When we doing the PBD, teachers' workload increased significantly, as the Lokman et al. 2024 has mentioned in their research. And since that PBD is involve many type of assessment during the classroom type, such as observation, written type, it's really teacher-led assessment. Teacher really need to focus each one of their people during a single class. So it can be a really heavy burden for teachers to assess their pupils, each pupils, and give grade to them. Give grade to them. Secondly, is parents still unsure how to interpret PBD reports compared to exam grades, because we are really being normalized by the exam base such as UPSR, P3T and SPM. It is how our Malaysian citizen decide how well we are in academics using the UPSR and the exam results. But now we don't have that. We only have PBD. So how? How can parents really recognize their um, child's potentials? So that is the issue here. So, the suggestions for improvement. Firstly is the continuous teacher training. So, we know that the teacher have really gained a workload because of the PBD, because PBD is actually a really specific grading system that really need our net need teachers focus on the class to assess each of the individuals. So during the teacher training, it actually can be the practical training for teachers on assessing fairly and efficiently, so that teachers can share their best practices through professional learning communities. And secondly is the digital tools for recording PBD. Instead of use paperwork or worksheet or any other physical assessment that used by teacher can actually utilize the digital tools to to actually track their student progress over time easily and efficiently. Plus, it will reduce the paperwork and workload, since that um, the data, the result of the PBD is actually recorded in the digital form. So lastly is the parent education and awareness. We know that as I mentioned earlier, parents actually anxious how PBD bring their child's performance, grade their child performance. So that how about the responsible parties can handle workshop to help parents understand how PBD reports works and how actually PBD visualize their child's performance and reduce their obsession with exam style results. So it can help parents to understand well of the PBD results. We move to the transformation 2, which is digital education and technology integration. Do you remember COVID-19, where it's a really global pandemic that hits all over the world, include Malaysia? So actually, since that moment, COVID-19 is really make a huge impact on the educational system of Malaysia, which one of them is the digital acceleration or digital users in Malaysia itself. So technology was already slowly entering Malaysian classroom before 2020, but the rate of adoption accelerated dramatically after the COVID-19 pandemic. So when the schools closed in early 2020, traditional classroom learning was disrupted and everyone cannot um, get outside. So how people can actually learn without being face to face? So here digital is play their huge roles. So forcing the Ministry of Education Malaysia to adapt digital platform at a scale to ensure continuity of education. Timeline and adoption. So in the pre 2020, gradual introduction of e-learning tools in pilot school first, and then we proceed to the 2020, which is the COVID-19 school closure accelerate nationwide use. Next, the 2021 to 2024, which is the increase the system integration because of the recognition of the highly needs of the digital education and technology integration. So the training and infrastructure support is also increased, and 2025 until now, hybrid learnings becomes a norm, which is what is mean by the hybrid learning is the face-to-face learning is blend with the digital learning or online learning, which is really normal education way, a new learning way in now on. This is the infographic that I get from the DOSM, Department of Statistics Malaysia, that shows that overall ICT access in Malaysia age 15 and above in 2024, which is there is 99.5% mobile phone usage, then 98% of internet usage, 80.7% computer usage. The data shows that Malaysians are highly connected to the internet and possess basic ICT skills such as browsing the social media and searching for the needs. But however, the challenge for education is to transform this high connectivity into meaningful digital learning and higher order digital competencies. and almost all Malaysians have access to the internet and mobile phones, but computer access is still lower. This shows that why mobile-based and internet-based learning platforms are more practical than computer-only systems. Here is what actually I want to focus on in this digital education and technology integration transformation. Actually about DELIMA. So what is DELIMA? DELIMA is actually stands for Digital Educational Learning Initiative Malaysia, and it is an online learning platform that introduced by the Ministry of Education Malaysia and designed to support both synchronous or live and asynchronous self-paced learning. So when we open the DELIMA website, or each students or each teachers actually get their own DELIMA emails to access all the resources that DELIMA provided. So what the offers is like digital textbooks, assignments and quizzes, teacher-student interaction and progress tracking. So this is the preview of the DELIMA website. As you can see, it really provided many application that you can access in one platform only, which is the DELIMA homepage. You can access like Google application like Google Classroom or Google Meet to doing the online conference meeting, or we actually can access to the Kota Buku, which is a huge library, online library, Malaysian online library, and so on. What is the implication of the digital education and technology integration towards the social mobility? So the first one is it is actually increase access to learning resources. Mind that students in rural and urban areas could access the same digital content when they are actually being offered by the same technological or educational technology initiative. Since the DELIMA email is not given based on their socio-economic background, which is that all pupils that is registered to government school actually will get the DELIMA email and access all the resources in that particular website for free. So, digital materials are updated faster than print textbooks, and learning is not tied to physical classroom atmosphere only. So the second one is the student-centered learning. How can digital education actually promote the student-centered learning? Students can rewatch lessons when they have all the digital resources, so they can learn by themselves without any teacher guidance. So the learning becomes really self-paced. The pupils can study anywhere, anytime, and any of their time of their liking when they are feeling to study, so they can reinforce their mastery and confidence every day, every time, and always being learning even they are outside of the formal classroom. However, when we discuss of the pros, there's actually can get the challenges when we are implementing the digital education and technology integration, which that we might having unequal access to devices because of B40 household may lack of laptops or tablets, which can interrupt their learning digitally, and some students have to share their devices with their siblings, and so hence because of this, when they share their devices with their siblings, it's not being like a safe pace anymore, since they have to share their time and their devices, so it may be lacking of their study time and what resources that they may access. So the second one is the internet infrastructure gap. So mind you that Malaysia is not widely high internet coverage. So the rural areas still have poor connectivity, internet connectivity and stability. So it will interrupt and slow their unstable connections and limit their interactive learning. For example, when pupils that living in the rural areas, they might have the internet stability issue that they might not fully attend the online classes for their study. So how can we help this? So the suggestion for improvement is that we know that some pupils have not have an opportunity to buy their own devices to learn. So they have to share with their sibling. But we can actually can overcome this issue by government subsidies or device loan program for B40 student. Do you remember Peranti Siswa? Yes, that is some of the initiative that have been done by the government during that time, which is providing tablets and another essentials, digital essentials such as digital tablet pencils and keypad and also Samsung tablet for the student who is need for the tablet. So it can be partnership with private sectors for affordable education devices. So the second one is improve internet infrastructure, expand high-speed internet to underserved rural regions and provide affordable data plans for students. For examples, like internet data or mobile data companies such as Umobile, Celcom, Maxis is actually offering students discount for subscribing the internet. We move on to the last transformation, which is the Transformasi Sekolah 2025, or we call it as TS25. Have you heard of TS25? Yes, there is. I will present to you key facts about Transformasi Sekolah TS25. What is TS25? TS25 is a school transformation program initiated by the Ministry of Education Malaysia to improve overall school quality by 2025, by the year of 2025. So it focuses on improving teaching practices, strengthening school leadership and creating positive learning environments. Mind you that TS25 is not like a PBD or like assessment such in transformation, but TS25 is actually a transformation in the school culture. So TS25 emphasise on the instructional leadership by principals, student-centered pedagogy in classroom, professional learning communities, or we call it as PLC, among teachers, and it also aims to create supportive, safe and motivating school climate. And TS25 is not a curriculum change but a school culture and teaching quality reform. And lastly, TS25 aims to ensure that all schools, not only high performing or urban school, can deliver quality of education. In the concept of TS25, it's actually include three different parties, which is the leader, secondly the teacher, and thirdly is the PIBG or the community support. So these three of the parties is actually work together to actually create a really effective, efficient and inclusive classroom environment that is really good for the student performance and improvement. What is the implication for social mobility as for the TS25? Firstly, is the TS25 offers more consistent teaching quality across all schools, despite the grading schools like the best school and lower schools. TS25 actually aim for all schools to be the best. So to reduce the gap between urban, rural and underperforming schools, and so then students receive better classroom experiences regardless of their location or regardless of what school that they are attend for. So next is the stronger teacher collaboration or the PLC. So teachers share best practices and improve collectively, and they can lead to more effective implementation of PBD and digital tools. When teachers collab or combine together, they can share their ideas and their practices on how to teach more effectively, or maybe to share how they assess the PBD more effectively among their community. Lastly, TESL25 it actually improves student-centered learning. Why? Because students become more active participants and not act like passive listeners. It encourages critical thinking, communication, and confidence among the pupils. Next is the suggestion for improvement for the transformation TS25. Firstly is the monitoring and support for underperforming school. As we know, underperforming schools is actually some schools may struggle on executing the TS25 program. So how to overcome this? By actually provide targeted coaching and mentoring for schools struggling with the TS25 implementation. Maybe for the good TS25 schools can coach the underperforming schools how they effectively or efficiently implement TS25 in their school, so they can share their sharings towards the school on how to conduct the program better. Next is the evaluate impact regularly. Use data such as student engagement, achievement, and their attendance to assess TS25 effectiveness. Next is the sustain professional development for teachers. Ongoing PLC session with clear focus on pedagogy, PBD, and digital integration. Lastly is the continuous leadership training for principals. So that TS35 can actually strengthen principals' role as instructional leaders, not only as administrators. So that's all for the 3 of the transformation. And since I am researching about this, my hope as a future teacher is that I hope to apply these educational changes in a meaningful way in my classroom. I want to use classroom-based assessment or PBD fairly, so that every pupil's strengths can be seen, and use digital tools to help pupils learn better and create a positive student-centered environment in line with TS25. And I hope that assessment in my class will support pupils instead of limiting them, but then technology will help them understand lesson more clearly, so they can make a really good use of technology to learn, and that my teaching can benefit all pupils regardless of their background. Through this, I hope education can truly become a way for my pupils to have better opportunities and improve their future later on. As a conclusion, in the past 8 years, Malaysia's recent reforms show a shift towards a more equitable, holistic and quality-driven education system. Malaysia is really step forward and really take a really brave action to make a really paradigm shift towards the educational system. Firstly, to conclude that classroom-based assessment PBD changes how student success is recognized and moving away from exam dependency. Next is the digital education, expand access to learning beyond classroom, boundaries and support skill development. And lastly, transformasi sekolah 2025 TS25 strengthens teaching quality and creates supportive school environment. Together, this reform address 3 key elements, which is assessment, access and teaching quality for the school culture. And these elements are essential to improve social mobility for students from all backgrounds, despite of their socio-economic backgrounds or SES. The success of this transformation depends on how effective implementation at school and classroom levels. With proper support, infrastructure and committed educators, these reforms can provide fair opportunities for every student to succeed. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.